Welcome back. There is an effort on Capitol Hill to establish a select committee to investigate the extraordinary claims about unidentified flying objects. Merrick von Remenkampf's opinion piece, published today in The Hill, is titled, "A Monumental UFO Scandal is Looming." And it's been The Hill's top story today. So as we continue News Nation's groundbreaking coverage of the UFO phenomenon, Merrick joins us now live. Merrick, thank you very much for joining us. You wrote today that there's one of two options here that's going on from the U.S. government: a decades-long cover-up or a staggeringly brazen psychological disinformation campaign. So my question to you is, what's to be gained in either scenario by the U.S. government? Why would they do that?
So it's a really good question, Mike, and thanks for having me, first of all. And I think I'm going to dive into the realm of speculation here, which I'm very uncomfortable doing. I'm much happier analyzing the facts as they exist. But if you believe the whistleblower, David Grush, in scenario one, if there was in fact this decades-long UFO retrieval and reverse engineering effort, it was partially born out of potentially Cold War politics, but also a fear that the ontological shock, the societal shock of revealing this information would be too much, and there could potentially be societal unrest and political and social unrest. So that's one side of it. If we're dealing with a disinformation operation, this could potentially be, and again, I'm speculating and not comfortable doing so, but this could be to potentially fool our adversaries into believing that we could potentially have remarkable technology. It could run the gamut. So that's my speculative answer.
Right. So all this got started with News Nation's exclusive interview of the former Defense Intelligence or National Geospatial Agency official David Grush. He just testified before the House Oversight Committee, largely as a result of that interview that we did. And what I hear you guys, a lot of you folks saying who are experts who have looked at this for a long time, is that there's been a cover-up. Now, I've lived in Washington for a long time. I've covered Washington. If this has been going on for decades, if foreign governments have been involved, if aviators have been involved, if citizens have been involved, how have they been able to keep it secret so long? That's the one thing that I can't get past.
Mike, it's the million-dollar question, and I worked in the government previously, and I was extremely skeptical of the story when it first came out, because from my experience, was in the same boat. But then I started looking back into kind of the history of the UFO story, and it turns out that there have been these rumors and leaks and deathbed confessions. They just never bubbled up to the surface. They always kind of stayed underground with these UFO circles. So the bottom line is, from my perspective, these rumors have been around for decades. They just never really saw the light of day the way they are now.
So in the 1970s, Carl Sagan popularized the saying, quote, "Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence." We've heard some extraordinary claims. I don't think there's any question about that. But we've seen limited evidence. Now, the Tic Tac videos are unexplained. Even the Defense Department, the AARO, can't explain what those things were. But, are we at the point now where most Americans, do you think we've turned a corner where most Americans are going to start taking this seriously?
I think we're getting there. Now, I'm going to point briefly to Senator Chuck Schumer's legislation, which is now passed the Senate and is now moving on to negotiations with the House. And it's basically, it's pretty extraordinary. And I don't think many people have caught on to what is in this legislation. It mentions non-human intelligence 24 times. It discusses legacy programs of the sort that the whistleblower describes. It has a mandate for the exertion of eminent domain over any UFOs that are in the possession of private contractors. So that means the government would forcibly take control of such equipment and material. And that goes for non-human biologics as well. This is pretty extraordinary language that we see. So I think once this information filters out, if and when that does become law, I think we're going to see potentially much more coverage. And I think that will open up the aperture for the general public.